Opposing Gloves here, and this is another sound design with Harmor. Today we're going to be talking about big lead chords. Now I'm going to play something live, the sound. We're going to look at some methods about these sounds, and this is specifically one sound, so one layer. A lot of these sounds have lots of layers. I think this is a pretty solid sound for just one layer. So again, there might be playing errors, and I'm going to have a small range because I'm using a 25 key keyboard. So just bear with me there, but make sure I hit record. I did. Okay, so I've got a kick here, and I'm gonna go ahead and play the stuff I have. I'll go through the different ranges. So that's our high range, here's our mid. And here's our lows. So as you can see, it's a very versatile sound. I just felt like I needed a kick to demonstrate it. So we're going to talk about how to make this sound, and then we're going to talk about different ways, different things you could do. Some of the key things with the sound, because it's difficult to achieve a good full lead sound without doing a lot of layers, and especially in just one VST. Things like that you probably heard, like I know Nexus is popular, and I've had a little bit of experience with Nexus, and it sounds to me like they've layered things together and they give you additional effects, but it sounds like a pretty heavily processed sound. So this is something that I know is a very popular sound. So let's go ahead for like certain genres. So here we have our original sound. And again, now I have a Harmor from the Ground Up series if you've never used Harmor. So check that out if you're looking for this, because I'm going to not explain what buttons do. So what do we do first? So the first thing I do when I want to make it sound like this is I know that they're using chorus to some extent. So I'll turn my chorus on. If we turn on 1, I will turn my depth all the way up. So I want it modulating the whole range. So that's pretty okay right there. And I have my keyboard up an octave too, so I'm playing higher notes. Now, I don't touch the delay. The delay could probably be very interesting. And I did some interesting things with the reverb, but when I'm making something like this, reverb plays a huge role in the way it sounds. But if we come over to unison, I forgot what I settled on over here. Like, I went all the way to 9. That's going to be a CPU hog, but it's probably going to be a main sound. And in a genre like that, you may just consider rendering it out to save CPU later. But the unison's essentially like chorus, only it's cooler because they give you more options with the pitch variation. So we could turn it up, and we get that sort of, when you play a higher notes, because now check out my Sound and Synth series if you don't understand this, which did not exist at the time the Harmor series was made. So I recommend, if you've not checked it out, check out my Sound and Synth basic series. But the cool thing about this is they give you the pitch variation. Because there's more hertz and higher octaves, we can actually discern pitch easier. And so this sounds better. It's easier to discern the pitch even though it's all over the map than it is lower. So it's interesting the psychological effects this has. But so you can see we're already mostly there. You could try you might consider panning and phase relations, especially when layering things, to create spaces for each of the layers to make the sound bigger. But that's there. And now I want to clone some of my upper harmonic content. And that's just for higher stuff. So now we get to the reverb. And so with the reverb, now we've got filters on the reverb. But first we're going to look at what it sounds like. So that sounds fine. It's great. However, I'm going to bring my decay time really high up. So really long decay time. But I'm also gonna bring my dampening up. This I don't want it infinite. The dampening is really cool. So higher frequency content rolls off first in reverb, and longer tones, because the way acoustics works out is longer tones will tend to reside a lot longer. So I just made it so you see that's much brighter than before. So we want that. Now we have this diffusion, and we also have this size setting. So we could set the size of our room. And for this, I want it to have a very small size. Look over here. Let's bring our decay down. There we go. That's what I did. I did the opposite. My bad. So we're taking the decay time. So this is the amount of time it takes for a signal after you've hit it for the reverb signal to drop below 60 decibels. It's called RT60 if you ever look at it on a reverb unit. And so we're going to bring this down, but we're going to make the size really big. So really big. So this is essentially now just a delay effect. A really fancy delay effect. Now you can reverb that later. We could probably accomplish something very similar with just the delay, but it's kind of cool to do with the reverb just because of the way the reverb's done. Now with this allows us to achieve a much bigger sound without having a ton of delay, which is something you could do. Delay might be something you might be interested in, but it will eat up space. It will eat up space in your mix. And so you might want to, consider that. And I'm going to put up a few more voices of chorus so we have more pitch variation. I'm going to change the decay time. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to compress it a little bit. I'm going to put on heating, a little bit of the lows. I'm not too interested in the lows on this sound, but I want it a little. I'm going to do the mids a lot and the highs some. And that's pretty darn close to what we had. And so now if we play our song. So yeah, it's whatever. So that's how you do that. Now, what are some additional things we could do to perhaps make this sound different, more interesting? Well, an obvious option is we have EQ, which is something that's like a big giveaway to a lot of sounds that how they made those in Nexus. Now with the EQ, we can. That's one option. I'm going to turn it off. We can come over here. We can randomize the phase. I am not a huge fan of this kind of thing on a sound like this, but harmonic randomness could be an interesting envelope to mess with. I'm gonna go change my delay. It's a little too washy for me. So that's kind of interesting. You could try messing with distortion. This could get a little funky though. This may be something where you do not use reverb because you'll get that click sound when you let go because of the reverb. The way we're using it, and as well as the compression, just not the best idea. But you could probably create some pretty interesting effects from there. I would not mess with anything that messes with pitch already because that's just like a bad idea. For if you're going for a typical lead sound. Now you have all these other envelopes that you could totally mess with. As far as you might consider messing with the volume envelope and making maybe a pluck out of it. And yeah, it's pretty much all there is to this. you get that phasery sound. It's kind of an interesting sound. Move the pitch back up. Maybe get rid of the envelope. Change the width. Move the. And we come in here, mess with the reverb, make the decay time longer, change the size. That'd be a good low sound right there, that one. So maybe do a cool chord progression. So anyways, you got your sounds. So that's a general big lead sound. You may consider messing with the harmonizer matrix. A lot of it's just these little, they're just tiny itty bitty changes. And then the way you create big variations is you do layers. And so we will look at that in a future video. If you have any questions, let me know. Suggestions, what you like to do about this. Subscribe and have a blessed day.
Opposing gloves. Reversing.